There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey, hail Satan, everybody.
Yeah. This one was a request.
Yeah.
Probably going to get a bunch of thumbs downs because it's not going to be what a lot of people want to hear, you know what I mean? I'm going to have all these satanic black metal guys telling me to fuck off because I might be, making fun of these dudes or whatever. I like heavy metal, I also like black metal. I came up listening to, like Venom and Slayer, but, as kind of time went on, even like Cradle of Filth a little bit. But, when you're in high school, all of a sudden girls happen, you know what I mean? And you kind of move away from metal. You start going more towards stuff that, is talking about getting laid.
Rather than worshiping Satan.
As soon as you start getting laid, that dry spell breaks, you know what I mean? All of a sudden you listen to those lyrics and you go like, oh, okay, yeah, that's right. I forgot, yeah, that's what that means, okay. And you want to listen to something that the girls are going to dig, Because, man, back in the day, you turn on that black metal, that turned those girls off.
Although I like some of it. It's not my main genre.
Back in those days, they didn't
obviously.
hardly have any black metal girls. It was that shit was marketed towards teenage boys.
Well, yeah.
That's
and I feel like that's probably largely the same part of their audience now, but I feel like it's definitely expanded out a lot. Because I feel like I didn't know that many metal chicks when I was growing up, but I feel like I know more now that are like our age or a little bit younger. Same with horror movies.
Yeah.
I didn't know a lot of girls that liked horror back then unless they did, and it was like they were keeping
It's been
it
around a lot longer, black metal and metal itself kind of developed better. It developed into kind of like a better form. It started to get kind of symphonic.
I like the more symphonic kind of.
Right, when I was listening to it, it was probably the epitome of black metal for a while was Venom, and that was basically like
that was 80s.
Yeah, and that was like a hard version of Motorhead, really.
Yeah.
And then Slayer came out, was a little more thrashier version of that. They were real good too, but some of the other stuff just kind of degenerated into Cookie Monster voices.
Yeah.
Bunch of fucking I want to listen to the Cookie Monster singing shit to me about the devil. And then as soon as you start talking about Satan, you can't get away from Satan. As soon as you start dropping the S bomb on the shit, you can't talk about politics.
Dropping the S bomb on the shit.
Yeah, you can't talk about politics after that and be credible. You can't talk about women after that and be credible. You got to stick with
Unless
strictly...
you're talking about chopping women up.
Yeah, it's got to stay strictly Satan as soon as you bring his ass out. You know what I mean? Or it breaks the spell. I guess.
Suppose so.
That's the way I saw it. It seemed like that's what they were doing. But eventually it got pretty good.
Well, it's kind of
I was
interesting.
kind of out of it by that time.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too because I think the main period we're going to be focusing on is like the Norwegian the infamous Norwegian black metal scene and like all the church burnings and murders and stuff like that they were responsible for. And a lot of those guys, like I've been watching like a lot of interviews with them and stuff like that. And it's interesting to me that maybe from the outside, people would think, oh, that's all they listen to is like other metal and stuff like that. But that is not the case. A lot of them are super into like old punk rock. Some of them are into like death rock. Some of them mentioned 45 Grave and Christian Death and stuff like that.
Yeah, they had more varied.
Like I like.
They had more varied taste than their fans.
Yeah,
had.
and that they liked any kind of. Some of them even said they liked certain kinds of electronica. It's like they liked any kind of like extremes or experimental. A couple of them mentioned like Diamanda Glass, the Swans, stuff like that.
Yeah, and Mortis started to get into Sisters of Mercy style stuff. And, And like he started to try to market some of his stuff towards the goth scene. I think he's back into kind of like hard.
And there definitely is like some crossover with the goth metal.
Yeah.
I mean, we know some people that in the goth scene that like a lot of goth music, but are also really into death metal and black metal.
Well, we know
and stuff
band
like that.
members in black, black metal Shaft.
Yeah.
We did his book, so he was cool.
Yeah, so
he's in California now.
Yeah, like a lot of people that are into that kind of stuff are like really nice people.
Yeah.
And I think that it kind of sucks because it just seems like a handful of people that were in the Norwegian black metal scene. And I'm not saying that like some of it wasn't exaggerated in the press, just like it was over here with the Satanic Panic and all of that. But a handful of them did murder other people. A handful of them did set like 50, 60 churches on fire and burn them down. And so they did commit crimes and go to prison and shit like that. So, and some of them said some really horrible shit.
Yeah.
So, but by and large, every fan I've met of that type of music has been super, super nice.
Yeah, but what's funny, though, is that they had a much larger footprint than they really were.
Oh, yeah, it was a tiny
scene. It's a tiny group of guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, if this had been happening in the United States, it wouldn't even register.
No,
probably would have gone on the news a little bit, but then they wouldn't even cared about the music. Wouldn't have focused on it.
Yeah.
It's because it happened in the Norwegian area. That's why it went viral.
Yeah.
There was a problem there. Here, I don't think it would be noticed. It just would have been local news.
Well, and it seemed like it really got to the point where, I mean, you can't even talk about Norwegian black metal bands without talking about all the other shit that happened, like all the crimes that took place. They even took, and actually I didn't know this until I started researching the show, so it's not like I'm just trying to like cash in or anything. Mm-hmm. But this year, they made a movie about kind of the most famous murder that happened that we'll talk about a little bit later. And the movie's called Lords of Chaos. And one of the Culkins is in it. I think it's Rory Culkin.
Okay.
Playing one of the death metal or the black metal guys. So so I haven't seen it. I read some synopsis of it. I saw the trailer and all this other kind of stuff. But so it's kind of topical. People are still interested in it. They're still making movies about it. We watched like the documentaries we saw Until the Light Takes Us. Yeah. I think that was on Shudder. And we watched that, and I watched like a couple other ones that, and like watched some interviews with some of the people and everything. So I've been doing that for the last couple days.
Yeah. Before we get into this, we probably got to do some announcements. The main announcement I'm gonna have to say is that we've monetized the channel.
Yes, if you haven't noticed, we actually took the plunge and decided to go ahead and monetize the channel.
We're gonna see how it goes.
Yeah, it's like, a lot of channels are monetized, and it's like, it doesn't really bother me, like having to skip through ads at the beginning or, whatever it is you do. So we're hoping that people are not going to get annoyed by it. But we'll see if it...
We've noticed that channel growth is getting kind of stagnant. It's growing, but it's not accelerating.
Yeah.
That's because we're not monetized. They don't have anything to gain from us becoming a big channel.
Yeah.
So if we monetize, they're going to change the algorithms most likely, which they'll promote us. So, we'll get more subscribers.
Which is good.
Which that might reflect on Patreon. I don't really think, we'll ever hit enough numbers to make a difference. And say in a damn YouTube check, you got to have like hundreds of thousands of hits, I think, before that even makes a difference.
Yeah.
The idea is just to help channel growth. If it doesn't make a difference, we'll probably demonetize it again.
Yeah, we're experimenting with it to see what happens.
Yeah.
So if you've noticed, I think I applied for it just a few days ago, and they told me it would take a month, but it actually didn't. It only took a few days. They just reviewed the channel, and most of the videos it looks like are monetized. A couple of them they said they couldn't because of very copyright issues or whatever.
Probably music and shit in the background.
Yeah, if there was music in the background or a picture that I wasn't supposed to use or something, I don't know. But most of them are monetized, so hopefully it won't interfere with anyone's like enjoyment of the show or anything like that. But we're just gonna see how it goes. Also, another thing that we've been talking about doing, because you know how the $20 and up patrons, plus, one person that I do in a drawing every quarter, we send you free stuff. Like, it's usually swag from the show and everything. So what we have decided to do, just because it's kind of something that you wanted to do because you kind of know how to do it, and also in the long run it will probably be less expensive for us because like drop shipping the shirts from Zazzle or drop shipping stuff from Zazzle is like really expensive,
right?
Especially if I'm shipping overseas. So what we decided to do was we are going to start hand screen printing our own shirts.
Right. We have the graphics design skills to do it. And I did it in art class back in high school.
Yeah.
So and I used to do a lot of that shit, silk screening. And I like doing it. I got the garage, so I'm going to do it here. Jenny will do the designs. I'll do the screens. And technology technology has improved a lot since then. You know what I mean? It looks almost kind of like photo screen now. But there'll be one color on black. The designs will be pretty cool. And the main reason why I did it is because I had Jenny make me a Snake Plissken shirt. And the decal fell off of it too soon. Like, man, this these Zazzle shirts are expensive.
Yeah.
And I'm not really satisfied with the longevity of the damn product for the amount of money that the customer pays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can make one better than that. And then we could also sell that, too.
Yeah.
To people who are not subscribers for a fraction of that cost. And it would be a shirt that would last.
Yeah.
And I'd make sure the quality of everything's really good.
So we're playing...
And it'd be handcrafted.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just going to make them like one at a time in small batches. We've already planned...
I'll make them ship out time.
Yeah, we've already planned 4 designs. We're planning on doing like designs that are different, like a little bit different from the Zazzle shirts, but also that are specific to the show. You know what I mean? So we're going to have like a logo one. We'll probably have like a variation of the Kukulkan one because that's kind of our thing in the show, or Tomm's thing. I might have a Faceless Villain design. Things like that. And then we're going to do a new design like every quarter and send those out to the patrons. And then we're also going to have probably an eBay store where you can buy them whenever you want to. Like if you want one of the other ones, or if you're not a patron or whatever.
Yeah, and I'll fill the order, when it comes in. We'll send it to you.
Yeah.
But that'll end up being a much more cost efficient. I could probably get you a shirt like that for $19.99 delivered. That's what I'm looking for.
Rather than... Because some of the shirts on Zazzle, I realize, are like $28, $29.
And the Zazzle shirts, things that are very fine lines, if the design has a lot of fine lines on it, it doesn't last long. It falls off. Not a true silk screen. It's damn in that material.
Yeah, it's dye sublimation.
It'll never come out of there. You know what I mean? If I do it. And you can get nice fine lines, and they're strong. They won't wash away.
Yeah.
So, we'll probably keep the Zazzle store up just because.
Yeah, it doesn't
cost us anything
to keep it open.
But I'm going to recommend these shirts over the Zazzle shirts just off the top because I know the technology.
Yeah, although the Zazzle ones, like I said, if you want a full color design and stuff,
that's where you go.
Those are like the full color ones. Right. Because the screen printed ones, we're just going to do them white on black. We'll just do different designs.
I like a t-shirt that'll last, 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
I have some screen print, silk screen shirts that are that old.
Yeah.
Not wearing them all the time, but in my experience with the ones off of Zazzle to date, you're lucky to get a couple years out of one.
Yeah, you really got to watch. You can't wear them a lot, and it's I try to turn them inside out when I wash them and stuff like that, which does make them last longer, and wash them on gentle cycle and all that kind of stuff. But
that doesn't happen with men.
Yeah,
men throw that shit in the washing machine. That's how we do it.
Well, I do your laundry. What are you talking about?
I know that. I'm talking about the customer though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, dudes just
they're just gonna throw that shit in.
They don't worry about turning it inside out or anything like that. That's only us anal retentive people. All right, so that's something to look forward to. Like I said, June 15th, right around June 15th, we'll probably be sending out the first shipment to the $20 and up patrons, and also I'm going to do a drawing, and we'll do a little video like we did last time for our little winner that's under $20. Okay, and also I have to give a thank you to our newest patron, whose name is Jake. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
also, thank you to Scott, who gave us a PayPal donation.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.
Also, and I'm very excited about this, we got our first piece of fan art.
Yeah, you're telling me about it. I haven't seen it yet.
Her name is Sarah, and she sent us this really kick-ass. I'll put it in the video, so if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. If you're listening to the audio, you won't be able to see it. But what I'll do is I'll put a link to her site in the show notes, so you can go look at the artwork and stuff like that. But I thought that was super rad. She sent me this really nice long message with the picture attached. I'm like, oh my god, that's so neat. I was so happy. So so those are all the shout outs. Now let's start talking about black metal.
Yeah.
Now let's give a little bit of a background, because there's a difference between death metal and black metal, which maybe a lot of people that aren't into it don't know. I don't. It's not a huge difference.
Black metal's satanic.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
pretty much the only. I mean, black metal. It's usually it's all satanic. It's has those logos that you can't read.
Yeah.
And
And this was created by the church, actually. The Satanic Panic made that happen.
and they usually do the corpse paint type
Yeah.
of thing. Although there's a couple bands that don't do that anymore, just because they think it's.
When the Satanic Panic of the 80s was going down, the church was jumping all over these metal bands saying everything was satanic on them.
Satan.
And it was very, very mild. Well, there were some other guys that said, yeah, fuck it, we're going to roll with that. And they just piled it on. I mean, it was...
Well, yeah.
It was
yeah,
like,
that's right. We're Satanists.
It was satanic bling. You know? That's what they were doing. They were just trying to, they were just blowing it all out of proportion. The first one I remembered that I was like, oh yeah, that shit there is just straight up satanic that I saw. Venom.
They are considered the
Venom.
first black metal band.
Yeah.
Yes. So
I liked them.
You are correct about that.
I liked them. It was kind of like Motorhead, but harder.
Yeah.
And it was just all about the devil.
Yep.
That's what it was just all about.
All about
The devil. And I guess they got bored talking about devils, so they have to bring in Countess Bathory. Then they got to bring in vampires. Then they're bringing in werewolves, demons, and then angels and demons fighting. And it was yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting.
And then atomic warfare.
Yeah.
Atomic warfare.
Okay.
Atomic warfare was actually unleashing lightning lords from hell, and it's cool idea.
Man, I hate when that happens.
Yeah, you know what I mean? When you're 15, 16, 17, it's like badass shit. Oh yeah. Right. Don't play that backwards.
Who knows what's gonna pop
Yeah.
out of the fucking yeah. But yeah, so it's funny you should mention Motorhead because I think they are kind of I think Motorhead are kind of considered the granddaddies of pretty much all quote unquote hard or extreme metal music, all the subgenres.
Yeah, kind of. Even though it was kind of like really, really hard blues, really. But
Yeah,
in
but
the
I mean-
day, it had a sound to it, and it had an image of being very, very heavy.
But I mean, you could argue that punk was like kind of a
Yeah.
speeded up blues also,
Yeah.
or speeded up rockabilly.
You listen to Motorhead now, and it's almost kind of like shit. I don't want to say easy listening, but just
Yeah.
almost old fashioned.
Well, it is very funny because I remember when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, and I had this book. I didn't pay for it, okay? Like somebody stole it and gave it to me. But it was Bob Larson, that guy. He's like an exorcist or whatever, and he wrote about it as how everything is satanic, pretty much. And so this book, this friend stole it and gave it to me because he thought that I would think it was funny, which he was right. I did. And it's just this hilarious book and how to tell your kids a Satanist and blah, blah, blah. And some of the shit that he had in there as being satanic music,
Blue Oyster Cult.
Yeah, stuff like that. And it's even Black Sabbath and stuff. And Black Sabbath are badass and I love Black Sabbath. But if you listen to them now, they don't sound that
No, they're not edgy.
extreme. It's not really that, it's like I
normal.
said, it's just kind of normal sounding.
Yeah.
It's just interesting how, the boundaries have been pushed so much that it's you listen to stuff that back then people were like, oh my God. And now it just sounds like, oh, that's catchy.
Yeah, you put Motorhead on and just listen to Lemmy. He's he's really the mastermind behind a lot of it. Especially the lyrics. Lemmy's just talking about wisdom. Street wisdom.
Yeah.
About how people are trying to fuck you over. Don't let them grind you down. I love Lemmy. He dead, passed away. God rest his soul. He went to Valhalla.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
He lived a long time considering how much whiskey he drank.
Yeah, Lemmy was about telling you the truth.
Yeah.
In his own way.
He always just seemed like a rad dude.
Yeah, he's a trip. Good dude. And his buddy, Phil the Animal Taylor, just bust his balls 24/7. There was interviews with him, those two.
The two of them were so funny together. They should have. I would have watched a whole comedy routine of the two of them.
I just had no idea Phil Taylor just sit there, just bust his fucking balls, constantly taking the piss out of Lemmy, just beating Lemmy down about taking his girlfriend and everything. It was fucked up. Fucked up.
It was very
fucked
funny.
up. That's a sign of really good buddies when they can sit there and just bust
because
each other's balls.
otherwise Lemmy, if anybody else said that kind of shit to Lemmy, he'd probably just pop you right in the mouth. But yeah, so they're kind of, like I said, they were kind of like the granddaddies of like I said, it was kind of like, and I think a lot of the early metal, which you thrash metal and stuff like that, a lot of them were listening to punk and stuff too, and there was some crossover there.
Yeah.
You know, you had some shit like Anthrax and all that. Then you get into your death metal, which is like, you know, Obituary, Cannibal Corpse, Carcass, all those kind of bands. Now, after that happened and like, you know, metal starts going more extreme into death metal, then you get the next logical step, which is just going full on Satanism. And as far as I know, and as far as I could determine, Venom are technically considered the first black metal band, and they were the ones that came up with the name of the genre.
Yeah.
This was in the early 80s. They were actually a British band.
Yeah.
Their first album was called Welcome to Hell.
Yeah.
Which you probably had it.
I still got it around here somewhere.
You do?
Maybe.
Where's all your records?
No, I mean, I thought it might be at my dad's house.
Oh,
That
okay.
might be at my dad's house.
So that's far away.
Yeah, I had Welcome to Hell, black metal.
Yeah, that was the second one. That was 82.
Okay, I had At War with Satan. I think was one of them. I think it was a double album.
Yeah.
I think, or it opened up. What else did I have? I had one called Possession from them. I had 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
I liked them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did.
Yeah, I liked them. They were good. I mean, the thing is you know, you say the Satanism aspect, for me, it was so over the top that to me it was tongue in cheek. I didn't even think they were taking it seriously.
They weren't.
Yeah.
No. That's
it was delivered serious, but it was it's so fantastic and so over the top. You're like, and also the lyrics contradict each other, so there wasn't any kind of a unifying religious theme behind it.
Yeah.
It was just whatever they were going to tell you in that particular song. That was the story they were going to tell you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is definitely entertainment, like watching a horror movie.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing, you know.
Which is why, I mean, I never had a problem. Like I said, this isn't my genre, really. It's like, you know, I'm into goth, I'm into punk, I like post-punk, I like that kind of shit. But I don't mind black metal. I don't, like I said, the symphonic stuff is actually pretty good. You know, and I'm not going to be one of those people that's just like, oh, they don't like, so it's not music, it's just noise, blah, blah, blah. Or that there isn't any talent behind it, or it's dumb or whatever. Because, I mean, a lot of shit I like is dumb, too, and juvenile.
What I always thought was weird is that during the Satanic Panic, you know, they'd have some preacher on Geraldo or something talking about satanic metal, but then he'd pull out a Rod Stewart album or a Judas Priest album or some Kiss, some shit like that, but never did pull out Venom.
Yeah,
it's like,
did they not know about that?
I think they knew about it. I think they did know about it. But I think because it was so over the top, it didn't have that low-key element where they're trying to sneak it to you under the radar.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to say that the mainstream music had an underground satanic thing. They're trying to suck you into it. That's what they were trying to tell people. Yeah. You couldn't show them Venom because it was like, oh, it was too obvious. You know,
they're not even being secretive about it.
They're not even
They're
secretive.
like, yeah, Satan.
Yeah, right. What I think they were trying to do is they were trying to say to people, you good Christians who are listening to that music you think is harmless is actually harmful. Yeah. Christians weren't listening to Venom, so they didn't bring it up, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see that.
They were trying to get Christians to stop listening to rock music.
Yeah, come listen to the shitty Christian simulacrum of rock music.
I think that's what they were doing in that era. I mean, looking back on it.
Which is hilarious that you bring that up, because just the other day I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, which is the God Awful Movies podcast. And I was listening to an old one where they reviewed, do you remember, and I saw this like way back in the day. It was called Rock, It's Your Decision. And it was basically about a kid who listened to too much rock music, man. Yeah. And he was like getting away from Jesus and whatnot. Yeah. And so he had to like make a pledge to like not listen to rock music for 2 weeks. And it was like really funny because he was like a fucking heroin addict. Like he was like, I'm getting the shakes, man. I can't deal with it. But it's like, it was like that. It was like, they don't know how rock music works. But one of the funniest things about that was it was kind of like you said, where some of the records that they were, you know, giving as examples of like Satan sneaking into your life. It's like one of them was fucking Barry Manilow. Barry Manilow.
Yeah.
My grandma listened to Barry Manilow.
Satanic Panic, man, did weird shit to people's
minds. Of course,
minds.
my grandma was a Satanist.
It even did weird shit. It even did weird shit to certain bands' minds. Because like one of the bands was called Striper. Striper came out. It was a metal
Oh
band.
Lord, I remember.
But it
Striper.
was Christian.
Were they really a metal band though?
Yeah, they were. That was metal. And I didn't really like them.
That was metal.
I didn't like the sound. I didn't like their sound.
Who did? Nobody.
No, there were guys that I knew that liked it, but they were Christian guys. But that was what they liked that though.
Okay.
But what was weird is that some people were saying, "Oh, well, they're doing that for the money." No, that cost them a lot of money.
Yeah, if you
you
wanted money, you should just be full on Satanist.
Yeah, they
You'll
really
make a lot more money.
They
that
really
way.
did believe what they were saying. They really were Christians. All right. Had they not had the Christian angle, they probably would have made it a lot bigger than
Probably.
All right. And here's another weird thing. The same churches that were saying don't listen to metal, it's all Satanists, were also saying Striper was satanic.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they had to
they're
just put it all in
that's
one boat.
That's a fake Christian
What are you
band.
like those really, really hardcore Christians like this? Like, what are they supposed to listen to? Nothing.
The Preacher.
Like a dial tone.
The Preacher.
You're not supposed to listen to any music at all. Is it like the fucking?
Well, hey man,
is it like Footloose Town?
They actually
dancing.
They have whole Christian sects. They're like that, and
That's
and,
crazy.
and Muslim sects too. You don't listen to fucking music.
Like I've heard of that.
It's the devil.
I've heard of that, but I've never met anybody like that, and I can't. And it's hard for me to imagine in this
They
day
got
and
shit
age.
like that there in Mississippi and fucking Mennonites and what all the other things that they have.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
them.
they're out there.
But I mean, they still like go out and tool around and stuff. I mean, Mennonites, they still drive cars and shit, right?
Earplugs in their ears. So they don't
Not
hear.
listening. La la la
Yeah.
la la. Don't want to hear the
You
devil.
got to get back to black metal though.
We are. I mean,
gotta keep it
we
on.
didn't go that far off.
I know.
Yeah, so like I said, Venom is credited with first in 1982, their 1982 album Black Metal. That's where
Yeah,
the
make me
genre
want to listen to that again.
got its name. Well,
Yeah.
you're free to. You can go listen to it any of
I remember, man, the sound quality is probably terrible because it was hard back then to listen to on the earphones.
Yeah.
Like that shit was recorded inside a tin can.
And I think as it went on, they
Yeah.
even if they had the means to do it better, they wanted
They're
it
like,
to
"Oh,
sound
fuck it,
shitty. Just
fuck
because
it."
they wanted it to be like lo-fi. Like
That's because like the devil's got some shitty recording equipment.
you would think the devil would have like the best shit.
No, it's
I would
bad.
think.
Bad. They make you suffer. They
Okay.
make you suffer.
Whatever. So you also had bands like Bathory. You had like Merciful Fate.
I
think
loved Merciful
Merciful Fate. Were they
Like
the first ones to do the corpse paint? I mean, I know that you always had Kiss and shit like that, but
I don't
that's
know.
not really the same thing.
I don't know. King Diamond, I think he was kind of painted up.
Yeah,
at that
King
time.
Diamond. Oh, okay, I forgot about that.
He was the lead singer of Merciful Fate. This was before he went. I had that album Melissa. That shit was fucking badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was black with a fucking skull and fucking fire coming out of his mouth. Creepy. And he sang real high pitched, It's just weird,
I could be in a
It's kind of, couldn't tell what sex he was. He was like gender bending. Metal style.
gender bending metal.
Because he'd be telling stories, he'd do the male voices and the female voices.
He's multi-talented.
Yeah. He's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
King Diamond. And then first time I saw him, I was disappointed. It was like an old low-budget video. He's up on stage, and he was like wearing like spandex and fucking shit that he cut with it. He looked terrible. First time I saw him. Yeah, I was like, wait, that's King Diamond?
What did you expect him to look like?
Now later on,
Did you expect him to look like the Darkness from Legend with big fucking
I
horns?
expected him to look like he ended up looking later on, with the top hats and the fucking real cool goth.
When he actually had
when he
his
got
shit
money
together.
When he
Yeah.
got money, yeah.
When he wasn't just like
When
cutting
I
up
first
his,
saw him, it was ridiculous,
cutting up his
man.
girlfriend's
He had a big
blouses
old,
and
he had
stuff.
he had a big old fucking cape with a big old fucking collar that went up like that, man.
Aw.
It looked like...
Got it.
It looked
Got it
ridiculous.
at the Halloween
It
store.
looks ridiculous.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like, well,
And I was listening to a Sept at that same time,
Yeah.
And a Sept looked much cooler, even with little Udo Dirk Snyder. He looked kind of like a little midget, like a little blonde midget, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Watch the game, God bless you. He had that fucking weird voice, Real strong German accent.
Oh my God, we need to start a black metal band.
Yeah, well,
you guys.
Sept wasn't black metal. It was kind of, it was like a power metal. It was kind of like a German version of Judas Priest,
Oh, okay.
but a little harder, like more of a Metallica edge to it. They were a good band.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never really made it. They made, I think they had a couple.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever
Balls
heard
to the
of that.
Walls was the only fucking hit I think they had.
Okay, I've heard that song.
But but I like that Fast as a Shark and all that fucking the album that came before that. I forgot what it was called. Been a long time.
You had a lot of those.
I was into metal.
Yeah.
I was fucking into metal. I loved it.
That's just like, that cracks me up that Because I didn't meet you until like long after that time had passed. So
No, by the time I was 18, I had kind of lost interest in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, so Venom considered the first black metal band. Now they didn't do all that well commercially, obviously. Really a lot of black metal bands haven't. But for whatever reason, they were from the UK, as I said. In Norway, there was a whole scene of people that kind of like picked up on that and ran with it. Now they thought that Venom was cool. They liked the satanic imagery and stuff like that, but I heard one of them say they thought it was too showbiz. Like I said, that they weren't taking it seriously and stuff. So they wanted to go, harder, more extreme, faster, and actually take the Satanism seriously. Now, there is still some debate over how serious. I mean, obviously, like I said, as we'll get to, some of these motherfuckers like burned churches and murdered people and shit like that. But by and large, I'm not sure how much of it was, we actually believe in this satanic stuff, or we're just doing it to shock people or be assholes or because people think it's scary or whatever.
Oh, I don't know.
It's a fine line.
I don't know if you want to get into it right now, but it was a synergy that had built up between...
We can get into it right now. So it doesn't have to be in any order.
Okay. Well, they were already talking about Satanism.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was, that was the first thing that happened. And you had some of the guys that, that were in bands started saying things like, well, Christianity is not our real religion. That was forced upon us by the church. Really, we're Odinists.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a way, these churches don't belong here.
Yeah, that's kind of where a lot of them were
they're
coming
from another culture.
Yeah.
Okay. So some of the fans, these are teenage fans, would burn them down. And then they would tell the guy, and then the guy would go, yeah, the churches are burning.
Yeah.
My guys are burning churches, but I didn't do it. And then more churches burned. It's that kind of synergy. And they put it on the news.
Yeah.
And then they started saying on the Norwegian news that black metal fans and bands are burning down churches. Well, that just caused more of it.
Yeah.
If you ask me, man, it's the same. I agree with the FBI. It's just like school shootings. They had school shootings going way, way back, and weird shit that would happen. People setting schools on fire. All right. But back in the old days, that was only local news.
Local news.
It didn't go national. So they were very rare. All right. These shootings would happen at a school, and it would go nationwide. And some other loser would say, well, I want them to remember me too. And he'd do the same thing. Oh,
good idea.
You're right. So they're not promoting it that you have these incels or other losers, who are willing to die because their lives suck. They want to go out in a blaze of glory. The best way to do it is to do what the other ones did.
Yeah,
so they keep
they
hitting
can't
that
do
nerve over and over
productive,
again. And the FBI told them to stop. FBI did a whole fucking study on it. This was back, I think it was in the 70s, actually.
Yeah.
They were like, we really should make news agencies omit that from
or at least
news.
like keep it low key.
Or don't name the person, don't, you know what I mean, or whatever.
I've said that about serial killers. Like, quit giving them badass nicknames.
Yeah.
Quit, stop it.
Because it kind of glorifies it. We might think it's horrible, but to a rock bottom loser who needs some attention, any kind of attention is good.
It's good attention.
So
sure.
that's what they're good, and it's that same thing over and over and over again. It's one of these little losers who any attention would be good for him, so he does it.
Yeah.
They need to stop putting it on TV.
Yeah. Or like I said, keep it super low.
They need to keep it maybe local news. Don't name anybody.
Yeah.
And if you did that only for a couple years, I think the rates of it would plummet.
Yeah, I've always been actually a big advocate of not.
Don't give any of that shit any power.
Yeah, don't give them attention because that's what they want.
That's exactly, and it makes it happen more often.
Yeah, just like don't even say their name. Just say this loser, this asshat, this dork.
Yeah. But
it would stop.
In the age of the internet, the name's going to get out, the face is going to get out.
Yeah, of course. It's like it's probably like you can't like the cat's out of the bag at this point.
Out of the bag
you can't like put it back in.
They've made it a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah. So going back now, as I said, black metal starting, but this in Norway for some reason it really kind of took a foothold, and like you said, it might have had something to do with Just this thing where there was all these kind of teenage guys, and they were a lot of them were living in Oslo or Bergen or wherever, which are, very nice cities, but, they're nice in the sense of like being boring. Like nothing bad happens there. There's not a lot of poverty, not a lot of homelessness. Pretty much everyone's okay. Everyone's kind of normal. It's not really conservative in the, in one sense of the word, but, it's not a lot exciting happens there. So maybe these guys felt like they were bored. They didn't have anything to do. They wanted to like shake things up a little bit. They wanted to get in people's faces. And like you said, they had this perception of, they're very anti-religious, which I'm not going to shit on that because I kind of am too. But, they had a thing where Christianity is, an invading religion. We should all be Vikings. We should go back to our pagan roots.
Which is another religion, really. So
yeah,
not
so,
not so much they were anti-religion.
They were anti...
They were religious. It was just an alternative religion.
They were anti-Christianity.
Yeah, anti-Christianity. Yeah.
So, and they kind of wanted to shock people, to get attention.
Yeah.
So the main core of the scene... really, it didn't get going until probably like the late 80s and early 90s. Now, the scene in Oslo was kind of centered around, it was this little kind of record store, and it was called Helvete, which means hell. And it was run by this guy named Euronymous. Everybody had cool nicknames.
Yeah, like Greek gods and shit.
Well, not so much Greek gods. I mean, some of them had names like Necro Butcher and Hellhammer.
Well, the guys from Venom had stuff like that.
That's what I mean.
Abaddon and Poseidon, and they had names like that.
Right. It's like
Kronos.
Yeah, they all had like death metal names.
Right.
So this guy Euronymous, he actually founded the band Mayhem, who were like one of the main, black metal bands from the area. Now, he had this record store. I've heard that he opened it with his parents' money. So it wasn't a profitable record store. Obviously, he was not a businessman. He just basically wanted to curate the scene, pretty much. It's like he just wanted, all these obscure, metal and, noise records from around the world. And he wanted to sell them to, like, a kind of an elite clientele. And he wanted to, like, say what was good enough to be sold in the shop and everything. I don't think the shop was ever profitable or anything, but it did become kind of like this hub of like other people hanging out there and like other bands hanging out there. I think some of them even like would live there, like live upstairs if they didn't have anywhere to go and stuff like that. So there was that guy, Euronymous, and then there was this other guy, and his name was Varga Kurtis, and he kind of went by the name Count Grishnak. He is actually still around, and he has a YouTube channel, and I watched a couple of he talks about metal and he talks about other shit. He did kill a guy. So there was that whole thing. But so the store opened, I think, in like the summer of 1991. And over the next couple years, the scene starts kind of growing in this area. They all had these names, like I said. You got your Blackthorn, you got your occultists, you got all those kind of people. You got they all had those logos. And it's funny because I'm a graphic designer, and one of my friends, she manages like a lot of death metal bands here in Florida, because there's actually a really big death metal scene here in Florida, which I don't know if you knew that or not. But so we have a lot of shows here in Orlando, so I do a lot of posters for them, and I always crack up because she sends me the logos for these bands to put them on the posters, and I'm like, what does that even say?
Yeah, that's fine. We're doing a show on this Norwegian black metal stuff. She's kind of busting on it a little bit. I understand it. I used to be into it.
I understand it too.
She's the black metal lady for making your album covers. How many albums do you think you've done?
I don't know.
How many different bands?
A lot.
A lot of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the one making all the album covers. Those damn fonts that you can't read anything, looks a bunch of blood. Yeah, she did that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, she makes the album covers.
Yeah.
All right. Well, which bands, just off the top, do you think that you've done? You've done was Sons of Ragnar, right?
Yeah, I've done Sons of Ragnar. They're like Viking.
Yeah. Who else? You've done a bunch of
Withering Earth.
Withering Earth.
Oh gosh, I know I've done a couple more than that. I can't remember.
Can't remember. Yeah.
No. But yeah.
And a lot of their flyers and stuff.
Yeah, I usually do the posters,
All
like
the
if they do
posters.
shows here. I've
Right.
done some of their album covers and shit
Right.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're cool
She's
guys.
the black metal record lady.
Well, here, yeah.
Yeah.
In Central Florida.
Yeah, for Florida.
I'm not shitting on. I like the music. I'm talking about these people in particular. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
some of the other people seemed cool, like when I watched interviews with them and stuff. I'm just saying that one guy, and that one guy
Yeah.
like killed a dude. So you know.
Yeah. She told me a story about a black metal record that she did one time. They sent her a picture of what they wanted. And they just wanted a description. They wanted it had to be like, and I'm going, that's Stonehenge. That's from what's the name of that damn movie? Oh shit. Where they made the little Stonehenge.
Yeah, I know.
What's the name of that movie?
Spinal Tap. This is
Spinal Tap. They gave them a description. It's like straight out of Spinal Tap. You know, we want
Well, it was very.
we want
detailed.
elves. We want
No,
druids.
there was no elves. It was
we
druids.
want we want
Well, I appreciated it though
Stonehenge.
because
We wanted it at night. We wanted lightning. We wanted it with demons and it was just, with some sun rays but she made it work.
I thought it came out.
She made it
I
work.
thought
She showed. She says, "How about that?" And they were like, "Yeah, that's what
I
we're
thought
talking
it
about."
came out beautiful.
Yeah.
If I do say so myself.
Yeah, you have to put that up on the
Even
show
though,
there.
well, no, because
Yeah.
here's the thing. It's like, I told them, it's like, I appreciated, I mean, because with the instructions they sent were like very, very specific,
Yeah.
which in some ways is like a pain in the ass because it's like, oh, now I have to like do all
Yeah.
this Photoshop work. But in another way, that's really cool because it's much better than somebody's just like, oh, just do whatever. I'm not really sure what I want.
Yeah.
But they know what they don't want. So
Right.
like, I'll do so I have no idea like what direction to go and I'll do something. They're like, no, not that.
Right.
But then they don't give you, and then you do something.
Right.
No, not that either. So I'm just like, yeah, that's not.
At least they
helping.
told you what they wanted in it.
That's what I mean. They
Right.
knew exactly what they wanted, and
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it came out really good. So yeah, so all these bands and they're doing their corpse paint kind of thing, which that they started doing that. Like a couple of the bands don't do it because I think they thought like, oh, it's too trendy and now everyone's doing it, but they did that to differentiate themselves from death metal because it was like a really big death metal scene in Sweden at the time, and they wanted to differentiate because I didn't know this until I watched like a couple of these documentaries, but the Norwegian black metal dudes hate the Swedish people.
Yeah.
It's like they're just like, oh, they're all fags.
Yeah,
It's like they're doing is
All
like
effeminate.
shitting on the Swedes, and like and the Swedes like hate them right back.
Yeah.
They'll just like the Swedish death metal. They'll put their band's album out as be like, you know, death to the Norwegians and all this other. So it's like this big rival. They don't like the Danish either. So there's like these big like metal rivalries in between. It's kind of like the hip hop beefs, you know. It's like East Coast, West Coast, but it's just like Norway versus Denmark versus Sweden,
Right.
and they're just all like making snarky little comments about each other, like on their like record
Damn.
labels and shit. It's like really funny. All right, so now let's talk about kind of one of the first things that sort of made the scene change and go toward probably like a more got a criminal direction, or you got them like more attention. And this was actually not a murder, this was actually a suicide. Now this guy was named, and I'm sure I'm butchering this pronunciation, but his name was Per Engve Olin. And actually he was known as Dead. He was 22 years old. Now, according to everyone that knew him, he was very depressed. It's like he was very death obsessed. That's like all he talked about. He was into like self-harm. He was always like cutting himself, like, you know, at parties, like to get attention and whatnot. He's kind of the one that I think he was one of the first ones that was to do the corpse paint thing. So he's kind of like given credit with like kind of bringing corpse paint to the wider like black metal scene, which is kind of a big thing for them. So he also had a thing where he would collect dead birds and like keep them in a bag and like keep them in his room and like
and
huff them like before he would go on stage and stuff. He's like, oh, I want to sing with like the smell of death in my nostrils or whatever. And he, you know, he'd like put decapitated pig heads on stage on the stage shows and stuff like that. So he was the lead singer of Mayhem for a while, which was Euronymous' band. Euronymous, spoiler alert, he gets murdered later on. So this is Mayhem. They are living up to their name, as you see. Now, the thing about death is that he said, and I don't know if this is true or not, but he said that when he was 10 years old, that I think it was his spleen ruptured and he had a near-death experience, and that was what like gave him this obsession with death like throughout his life. So I don't know how true that is, but that's what he always used to tell people anyway. So he's 22 years old. He finally decides he's going to kill himself. I guess Euronymous is at his house, and I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly how this went down, but apparently Dad's like, yeah, I'm going to kill myself, and Euronymous is like, go for it. Yeah, like, he didn't like tell him not to. He's just like, do it.
Yeah.
So he did. Yeah. Apparently he cut his wrists. I think he slashed his throat, and that didn't work. And so he blew his head off with a shotgun.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That was in 1991.
Now, were they drunk?
Not that I ever heard of. So he does
in the
that.
United States, they would call that negligent homicide. That's killing somebody by not preventing it. That's what that would be called. Yeah.
Well, listen to this shit that happened afterward. Okay, so Dad blows his head off. Euronymous, like I said, he was either there when it happened, or he got there right when it was happening, or whatever it was. Now, story goes that he sees the dead body, and he goes down the street to the store. He buys a portable camera, comes back, kind of poses some shit around the body, takes a picture of the body, and uses that as the cover of their bootleg live album.
Damn.
Which...
That's hardcore.
That's pretty hardcore.
Although, those dudes would have wanted that.
Probably. They were like, awesome, man.
Yeah, that's...
I've heard, and I think that this was dead suicide. I think that he left a suicide note, but all it said was, sorry about all the blood. Cheers. I think that's all it said. But okay, so not only did he take a picture of the dead, and I've seen the cover, it's pretty gross. He took a picture of it and put it on the cover of their live bootleg, but he also took part of little shattered pieces of his skull, like from his head being blown off, and made jewelry out of it and gave it to friends of his that he had deemed worthy and like cool enough to get one.
Okay.
Now that is true. There is also a legend...
Edgelord motherfuckers.
There's also a legend that he collected pieces of Dead's brain and made a stew out of it and ate it. I'm not sure if that's true. But the bone thing is true, because some of the other people, like, corroborated it.
People want to know why Viking warriors were so fucking crazy. All right? This is... with the blood eagle and, making children fight each other to the death, captive... Saxon children, make them fight to the death, stuff like that. They were guys like this. This is their
and
ancestors.
That's exactly what.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what these dudes are like shooting for, because a lot of them, especially that Varg guy.
That's their tribal identity.
Yeah. It's like he's very into the Viking thing, and actually, some of the death metal bands that we have here in Florida are very into like the Viking thing, and a couple of the ones that I've done album covers for and like their lyrics and stuff. It's very, very Nordic, very, Viking ancestors, and we're going to fuck everybody up.
Yeah.
So I think that's where this is coming from.
Yeah, although, it's funny, the interviews I've seen of these guys, they're little guys. They're not even big guys for Norwegians, a lot of them.
Yeah.
They're not physically intimidating.
Well, most of them are just like skinny, long-haired guys, just like heavy metal guys are over here, and pretty much the world over.
Yeah.
I feel
like eat something, bitch.
Yeah, even some brain stew or whatever. Yeah, that's fucked up. Right. I mean, it's funny to me that it's been corroborated that he made necklaces out of the parts of this dude's skull, but it's like, then they're like, well, we're not sure if he did the brain stew thing. I'm like, would it really be that much farther along than the skull thing, or taking a picture?
Made that up.
But I can see if it's like once you've already like taken bits of the dude's skull and made necklaces out of it, I don't really see it's not that much farther to go to like make a fucking stew out of the brain either. You're already poking around in there.
What happened next?
Well, actually, what happened next is that we need to take a break because we're almost at an hour, and we haven't even got to like the murder yet.
It's an hour?
Yeah, just about.
Okay. All
right, so we are going to take a break right now. When we come back, we will talk a little bit more about the Norwegian black metal scene, all the church burnings and some of the murders and stuff like that. So we'll be back in just a minute.
The Faceless Villain, a collection of the eeriest unsolved murders of the 20th century, Volume 2, includes cases spanning the years from 1960 through 1979, featuring such infamous crimes as the triple homicide at Lake Bodom, the family massacre known as the Good Heart Murders, the serial killings of the Zodiac, Bible John, Jack the Stripper, and the Freeway Phantom, the slaughter of dozens of women and girls along the Highway of Tears and the Texas Killing Fields, and the mysterious death of suspected spy, the Isdal woman, along with dozens of other fascinating and horrifying accounts. Buy it now from Amazon in print, Kindle, or audiobook format.
What you doing? What you doing, Booster? Eating them up, huh? Eating them up, huh? Yeah. Sounds good. Eating them foods, huh? That's right, being messy. You being messy.
What are you doing, Cody?
Being messy.
Eating a little treat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's kitty crack.
it is.
Yeah, that's all she wants to eat is those damn treats.
And you can hear her munching
Yeah.
day and night.
Yeah, that's all she does.
Those are the cats.
Yeah.
All right, we're back talking about Norwegian black metal.
Yeah.
Now, before the break, we were talking about the suicide of the man known as Dead, and his photo appearing on the front of the bootleg album, which was actually called Dawn of the Black Hearts. I didn't remember before the break, but now I remember. Now, this was kind of like, it seemed like this was a turning point in this Norwegian metal scene. Now, it should be noted that this scene, as you said, was actually really small. It was kind of mostly based around this record store, Helvete, which was also the headquarters of Death Like Silence Records, which Euronymous also founded. And it was probably only like 15, 20 like main players and then like a bunch of kind of people around it. So it was just like, a small scene was just like a bunch of bands and they all kind of knew each other. So after Dead committed suicide and Euronymous took the photo of him and did the thing with the skull necklaces and all that, there was kind of like a rift developed in the scene because some people thought it was cool and some people thought it was fucked up. So, then there kind of started to be like all this sort of infighting. And there was always all that kind of shit too. Now, it should be noted too that Euronymous, from everything that I've read about him, he was kind of more... They always say stuff like the scene isn't like really political, but some of the stuff that they talked about was kind of like... Now, Euronymous seemed like he was kind of like a Stalin type of admirer. He was like a hardcore... like communist. He was really into totalitarianism of that type. But then you get like Varg, who was from the band Burzum, and he was actually more of like a neo-Nazi. So they kind of didn't get along on that
The
score
old
either.
commies versus Nazis dichotomy.
Yeah, so there was that kind of whole thing going on too. Some of the bands just wanted to stay out of it. They just wanted to, play music and be Satanists or, do satanic shit and not worry about it. But there was kind of like that sort of rivalry going on there too. So, and like I said, it's kind of like there's not even really agreement on, and Euronymous in particular, and they talk about him a lot because he's, one of the ones that got murdered, and he was the one mainly that the movie Lords of Chaos is about.
This cat is getting out of control.
Yeah, she found a box full of like other boxes and plastic and stuff. She's like, what?
She found a box of boxes.
Yeah, and plastic bags, and she's like,
she's
oh
trying to get
boy. Look, Kitty, you're on the show.
Yeah.
What do you think about black metal, baby cookie?
No answer.
She doesn't know anything about it. Baby cookie needs to be.
So
in a
she's
black
going right
metal
back over
band.
there.
Yeah, she's gonna go right back. She's
I'm
like,
gonna have to lock her out.
She's
Go
like,
ahead. Hey, no.
What are you doing?
So she just wags her
She's
tail.
like, whatever, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, there's no really agreement on, even Euronymous, some people said, oh, the satanic thing, it was just all for show, and some people said, no, he totally was a Satanist, he really did believe in that. And it should be noted, too, that when they're talking about being Satanists, what they were trying to put across, whether they genuinely believed this or not, was what they would call theistic Satanism, as in they thought that Satan was a real being that could be, you know, summoned and whatever. It wasn't a type of thing like...
But here's the weird thing.
You know, it wasn't like the Satanic Church nowadays, which is more or less atheistic or agnostic at least.
Here's the weird thing. They're saying that that Christianity doesn't belong there, that they're actually more like Vikings. But then they're talking about believe
which
that
is
Satan
which
exists.
is a Christian concept.
That's a Christian concept. It doesn't
Sure.
make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, like I said, I think...
I mean, if they thought they were Vikings, and then they thought Satan was real, it wouldn't be the Christian Satan. It'd be the Viking Satan, which was that damn king of the ice giants at the
Right.
North Pole.
Yeah.
What's his name? They had some weird name, Farfnir or something. Everything's like that.
Fur. It's just,
Fur. You know, shink for fur. You know, whatever. You know what I mean? It wouldn't. Why would they be worried about Satan?
That's why I suspect that a lot of them just got into it for the shock value.
Yeah,
because I mean, they were basically just trying to, you know, much like punk was, they were just anti-authority. They just wanted to like shock people and get in people's faces and like piss off the squares or whatever the fuck they were doing. So they were going to use, and I think they flirted with a lot of Nazi imagery too. Maybe not because they were actual Nazis, even though Euronymous thought that a lot of them were, but you know, just to piss people off is what they were trying to do. They were just trying to provoke people. And some of them have said as much, that that's what they were trying to do, that they weren't really taking it all that seriously. But, you know. So, right around 1992 is when all the church burnings started to happen. And these went on for a period of about 4 years off and on, from like 1992 to 1996. The ones that they know of, there have been at least 50. Now, and a lot of the churches were like burned to the ground. And these were like old, you know, churches, like historic churches. And some of them are gone now because of this. Every single case of arson that was solved, it was a black metal guy. It was either somebody in a band or a fan of one of the bands. You know what's interesting is when I was researching this, I found an article from just a couple months ago. I think it was from March of 2019. And there was a kid in Louisiana who was going around burning black churches, and they caught him, and he was also a black metal fan.
Yeah.
And he was a big fan of that Varg fella. And so he was going around burning churches, I guess, and then I guess there was kind of a racist component too, but also because it should be said that when all these churches started getting burned, it's like, because here's the thing, I'm not a Christian, and I'm not down with it. But I would never burn down like a beautiful 100-year-old, but it's not the building's fault.
Insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, and what does it do? You're not doing anything productive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Most of the southern church burnings, like you're talking about, was political. It wasn't even really religious. It was white Christians burning down black churches.
Yeah.
Not because of Christianity, but because they believed northern political agents were working through those churches. That was back then in the 60s.
Yeah.
That's why they were doing it.
Yeah.
It was more about politics.
Yeah.
They didn't want Yankees using them as bases of operations.
Yeah.
Basically what they were saying.
Well, this
was in general, this is the Klan that was doing this.
Yeah.
But not just the Klan, it was other ones too.
Yeah.
Cops did it back in those days.
Well, yeah. Well, some cops were in the Klan.
Yeah, but some cops weren't in the Klan, but would still burn them down because Yankees were taking over those churches and, riling up the black people. That's how they perceived it.
But this kid that they caught, I mean, he was 21 years old, and he was all into black metal, and he was all into like church burning and stuff like that. So they suspect that it probably had something to do with that. So as I said, that of the 50 or so cases that they solved, every one of them was either a fan or a band member. Now, Varga Kurtis, he is actually suspected of burning down Fantoft Stave Church, which that was the first one that they solved. because he had his band's EP, which was called Ashes, except in Norwegian, had a photograph of that church burning down. He was not making the super secret about it. And when it comes out, it's like, oh, those churches are burning down. They're like, yeah, good. They didn't like think it was bad or nothing. And they're just like, yeah, that should happen because Christians suck and we're just like building all the shit down. So he was suspected of that one, but wasn't convicted of that. However, in 1994, he actually was convicted of burning down Holmenkollen Chapel, another church called Skjold Church, and another one called Asane, I guess is how you pronounce it. So he got 3 church burnings, but they suspect him in a bunch more. So it's not just the fans. Like, this dude's in a band too, and he's out there burning churches down. Now, something that he was allegedly planning to do was that he and Euronymous were going to blow up Nidaros Cathedral. That was going to be like their album release party. They were going to, like, they put a picture of the cathedral on the cover, but they had planned to blow it up. And apparently they were going to go through with it because I think when Varg got arrested for murder, I think it was when he got arrested for the murder, they found like a whole shit ton of like illegal explosives like in his house. So he was planning on doing this shit. Yeah.
Notoriously light sentences up there.
Yeah, well, you can't get any more than 21 years for
anything,
murder.
Yeah.
That's the maximum sentence.
Right. And you probably get half off for good behavior. So that's 10 years,
I think,
6 months.
for murder, I think he's, he didn't do the whole 21 years, but he did 15 years, 16 years, something like that.
That's what you get here.
He's out now, but
that's what you get here for grand theft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He was in for a long time.
You get that for grand theft here. So that's 15's nothing in some of these states.
Yeah, it might have been longer, but I can't really remember. But yeah, so there were some other band members that were also convicted of burning other various churches. Some of them never got caught. Some of them were just like fans of the bands and shit like that. And none of them were sorry. Obviously, they just said, no, well, Christians shouldn't be here. It's like, we should all be Vikings. We should go back to our pagan roots or whatever. So we're just like rooting out the interlopers or whatever. That's how they saw it.
This is probably a time where there's just like a massive amounts of atheism there anyway. I think those churches were pretty much just monuments, weren't they?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. And I don't think people were bothered because, Christianity. I mean, Norway is one of the most atheistic societies on earth. I think Iceland might be number one. But Norway's up there.
When you start burning these churches down, it becomes a cultural phenomenon. That's what's happening. It was kind of like that in the South when church burnings were real common.
Yeah.
Nowadays, every now and then one might happen because it was a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Somebody says, remember when you used to burn churches down? Let's burn a church down.
Let's do that again.
Let's do that again. Yeah. It's just that dumb.
To me, it just seems dumb. And
just that dumb.
And I'm not... Yeah. I don't know. I'm the kind of... Like, I'm a very pragmatic...
Like cow tipping.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what it is that you think you're accomplishing, but it's nothing. You're not accomplishing anything.
It's young men with not much to do.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. And even when I was younger, like, I've always been a very pragmatic person.
Yeah.
I don't really like things that don't have any effect or don't, you know what I mean? It's like, if you want to fight Christianity, let's say I don't like Christianity and I don't think people should be Christians or whatever. It's like, there's better ways to go about it than burning churches down. You know what I mean? Much better ways. I mean, so there's like hundreds of better ways to go about it than burning churches down.
There's no reason to fight Christianity
and there's no
anymore.
reason to anyway. And especially in Norway, like I said, it's one of the most atheistic countries on earth. They're probably just mad because, hey, that was a beautiful building and why'd you fuck it up?
Me and Jenny went through the worst of it. The satanic panic. And looking back on it, we just laugh at it. They can't do anything to you.
Yeah.
They can't do it. They just drive you crazy. Pull your posters off the wall when you're a kid.
And the thing about it is that most of the satanic panic stuff, like you said, all the shit they were complaining about was just
regular shit.
It was just fun. It's like they were always like shitting on people for like liking horror movies and shit like that. It's like there's nothing satanic about it.
It was a cultural phenomenon.
People just like horror movies.
There was a generational differences And
Yeah.
that generation's mostly gone, so you have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah. And I just feel
It's
like
just not
as
the same.
time goes on, I just feel like people are just going to be like, meh.
It was a boomer thing.
I definitely think it was a boomer.
It was a boomer thing.
Because I feel like, and we've talked about this a lot, but I definitely feel like, remember how there used to be, and maybe our generation, we're Generation X, maybe this was the last one to really have this, was I feel like we're the last ones to experience like a really profound like generational gap.
Generation gap, right.
I feel like there's not
generation gap.
there's not really much like that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we're the last. I know that everybody, like when they're a teenager, like everybody's, oh, my parents don't understand me and blah blah blah, and I think that's probably going to go on forever. But I don't think there's this kind of like this whole zeitgeist kind of shift.
Like for instance, we never listened to our parents' music really.
Not really.
We didn't
I like.
really-
Well, my
nothing.
dad was into good shit, so
Especially
I liked
not our grandparents' music.
Well, no.
Fuck no. But we can go to a club today, hang out with people in their 20s, and all of a sudden they're bringing up music. Going, how do you know about that?
Yeah.
How do you? Because they're listening to a lot of the
I
same
find
music.
that very weird.
They're listening to the same shit we were listening to.
Yeah, I find that very weird.
You know, and it didn't used to be that way. It just goes to
No.
show that our generation started to have good aesthetic taste in things. They kind of stood the test of time. They didn't go out of style real
Maybe
quick.
we're not quite as lame as like
Yeah.
old people. Where it's like,
man.
I'm still lame because I'm, because old people are always kind of, they get lame as they get older. But I feel like maybe we're less lame
less lame
than
somehow.
old people of generations
There was-
past.
there
At
was-
least we kind of keep up with shit.
Yeah, those the other
More or
generations
less.
were brought up with a certain kind of expectations of life that aren't really realistic by today's standards, and they were very much inside the box. Very
Yeah,
much
maybe
inside the
that's what it was. Maybe it's just because like
box. Very
we were
institutionalized.
sort of the
upbringings.
first ones to bust the box out, and no one could really put the box back
Okay,
together
yeah.
the way it was. So
Well, I saw the box was broken by the time I was 19.
yeah,
I was like, oh, that shit won't last.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Adults would give me advice, and I'm going like, yeah, that advice isn't going to be good for much longer.
yeah.
Because we saw technological changes coming and societal changes, and just how the economy was changing.
Well,
You know, I was expected to do things that my grandfather did. And I'm like, what?
yeah, and I feel like we were the first ones to see that it's like
Like, that ain't gonna
that you
happen.
have to. Well,
Yeah.
you have to keep changing. You have to
Yeah.
keep on your toes like all the time.
Not only my grandfather, my father would never be able to imagine you could make money off the internet. And you could say, yeah, you can make money off the internet, but he couldn't explain to you how that's actually done.
Well, your dad doesn't even use the internet,
Doesn't use the internet.
does he?
Yeah.
My grandmother did.
He goes, oh, that's all bullshit. So
Yeah.
what? The internet's bullshit? Yeah, it's all bullshit.
It's all.
The internet's
That's really funny.
I
Well,
showed him YouTube because he likes guns and shit. I said, "What kind of gun do you want to see? What's the weirdest thing? What kind of information do you want?" There's like rare guns from like the 20s, the 30s, or something, And I don't even remember, but I just started finding. He goes, "Yeah, that's it right there. Been looking for one of those." You know what I mean? Just stuff like that, and it just impressed him. Like, yeah, there's knowledge on there. Yeah. He just thought it was just bullshit.
What did he just think it was?
Oh, it's
all
just
porn?
bullshit. Yeah, it's just
Did he
people
think
lying.
It was all
People
porn?
lying. Yeah. Porn, people lying.
Most of it is all porn,
Yeah.
but I think 80% of it's porn. But there's some interesting shit out
He didn't
there.
realize that you could actually do research from there. But the idea of eBay would blow his mind. The idea
Yeah.
of PayPal, the idea of making electronic transfers through your email accounts into your fucking bank account, that would blow his mind.
Well, the weird thing is that
He's
I
like,
mean,
"What?"
you and me, we didn't grow up with that either. I didn't start using computers at school until I was 8, and even then, it had the big 5 1/4 floppy. It was like a Mac Apple IIe or something like that when I was 8 years old. And I got started early,
I didn't really see.
but but we didn't grow up with it.
No.
So we were like, I was probably in high school or college before I really got into like using computers and the internet and stuff like that. But even we adapted pretty quickly. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, this is how it is now. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see the internet until like about 95, 96.
Yeah.
Which would have made me probably around 25, something like that.
Yeah.
And I bought something off of Hot Topic. It blew my fucking mind. I ordered it. Something off Hot Topic.
What?
Oh, man, this is
I
like
just
some
go on
this
this
is like-
thing and
this
push
is
the
like- yeah.
buttons, and then it comes to my house.
Yeah, it was like some shit. It was like some shit out of fucking science fiction movie, man. It was just like what I saw in The Running Man when Arnold Schwarzenegger buys an airplane ticket to Hawaii
On his TV.
through web TV.
Yeah.
And because I made the purchase through web TV.
Yeah.
The web
I
TV
think
console.
we bypassed web TV. Like, I'd heard of it. I knew some people that had it, but we
I had
didn't
web
have it.
TV.
And then we just went right to...
It was a good idea at the time because the
Dial
computer
up.
was so expensive.
Yeah.
You get web TV for like $120
Yeah. We
and
never-
get on the internet.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I couldn't believe it. There's not much. It's not as much on the internet. You couldn't stream back then.
Yeah, there was a lot of shit you couldn't do.
A lot
back
of shit.
then.
It was even more shitty than a cell phone of
Yeah.
today. But in those days, you could just it was
Well, it was a big deal because...
you didn't have to go. You didn't have to leave your house to shop.
Yeah, because I was like, what? I don't have to put on
Yeah.
pants? Sweet.
Yeah. 'Cause I was like in Gulfport, Mississippi, and I could order something from England.
Yeah.
You know, remember Black Rose? Mm-hmm. Those gothic clothes from Black Rose.
I used to get them out of the catalog
Yeah, my mind was fucking blown.
through snail mail.
I was dressing good, man. I was going, fucking right. I know where to get this shit. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But yeah. So, where was I? Okay. So now, before the big iconic murder that everybody, there was actually another murder. And this is another thing that kind of makes me feel like, yeah, you guys are maybe not so cool. So in 1992, this one guy, his name is Faust. He was walking home one night through Lillehammer, and according to him, he was approached by this 42-year-old man who was a gay man, and he says the guy propositioned him. I'm not sure I buy that. But Faust decides, hey, I've always wanted to know what it would be like to kill a person, so he just stabbed the dude to death.
Yeah.
37 times.
It's like, today we kill a gay. Because it rhymed.
I guess. What
Yeah.
the fuck, man? Yeah, so he stabs the
Yeah.
guy 37 times just in the street, just random guy walking
Yeah.
by. And then when he's on the ground, like, bleeding to death, then he starts kicking him
Yeah.
until he's dead.
Yeah.
I'm like, fantastic. So they catch him, and
The criminal mastermind that he is.
yeah, I
Yeah.
suppose. And his quote was, I was outside just waiting to get out some aggression.
Yeah.
It's not easy to describe why it happened. It was meant to happen. And if it was this man or another man, that's not really important.
All right.
Well, I guess it's not important to you, is it?
Yeah.
It was important to that guy
Yeah.
and his family.
Is that the guy who said it was edgelord?
No,
Okay,
this is a different edgelord.
Different edgelord.
So, you know, not so cool. Just going around randomly stabbing gay dudes to death on the streets of Lillehammer.
Yeah.
So yeah. Now, the media kind of had a field day with this, and like I said, this is a fucking horrific crime, and it's horrible. But you know, they play up the Satanism angle, and I'm not really sure, you know, how much that can be. I mean, this dude is obviously just a lot of these dudes that are into this kind of shit. And like I said, the music is cool. It's not so much that, but these dudes that get so into it that they're willing to like fucking stab people to death. I mean, obviously that's nothing to do with the music. That is a messed up individual.
Those dudes are sitting around talking too much.
Yeah.
That's what they're not doing enough shit. Dudes
Well,
sit around and talk about shit, talk
Yeah.
about records, and then talk about each other. And then they start talking each other into this weird fucking zone. And then they go out and fucking do some stupid shit like this. The dudes need to be in the army. They need to be working them boys is what they need to do.
Well, I mean, like I said, like you said,
do some shit.
It feels like something that
They're
you
missing
know,
something in their lives.
yeah, it's like maybe they don't feel like they have a purpose, or they don't have a life, or
Yeah.
or maybe they have emotional problems that
It's
are
like-
like untreated.
Well, not doing anything will give you emotional problems. That's the thing. All that shit plays into itself. You put a person in solitary confinement, the sanest motherfucker in the world. A few years later, he's fucking weird. Okay?
Yeah.
Just how it is.
Yeah.
You know, you take these guys.
Well,
and you
humans are meant to be
Yeah.
interacting with
and
other
to do
humans and
shit
to doing things.
and have accomplishments and you know, well, you put a bunch of them together in this little clique. It's already kind of negative.
And they're all kind of reinforcing their
kinda
negative.
yeah.
Oh, everyone sucks.
Yeah,
and
yeah, and then next thing you know, they're doing stupid shit like this. And how many girls are in this scene?
That's what I mean. Not a lot.
Yeah, so they're
Not surprisingly.
So basically, we're talking about incels.
Well, and one of the other guys too, and I can't remember what his name was, but one of the other guys too, he actually got arrested later for beating up his girlfriend. Now, he was in his 40s and the girlfriend was in her 20s. I think she was 26 or something. And he beat her up and then raped her with a tattoo gun.
What? Damn.
So yeah, he got in
While it
trouble
was
for
running?
that. I guess. I didn't really, but I just read like a thing and I'm like, oh, that's charming. Yeah, so, you know, beating up girls, beating up gay people. That's, you know. Like I said, they're not all like that. And it's nothing to do with the fucking music, like I said. It's just these dudes.
Sounds like the
douches.
synergy. It's the synergy of this little scene working on itself in
Yeah.
seclusion, if you ask me. And you know, no offense if you're in these Nordic nations. Out, you know, I went to high school in Brazil with people from Sweden and Denmark. You know, they went to an international high school. You know, and you know they told me about what it was like. And you know, and I've known some goth dudes. You know, in Boston. You know, they coming down from Sweden and. It's boring there. I don't mean to insult, but you know they tell you, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, kind of boring.
Yeah. Well,
Kinda
I
boring.
said that earlier. It's like
Boring.
it's just a place with like not a lot of exciting things.
Yeah, not a lot going on there. All right, they come to the United States. They think it's like a fucking amusement park. Okay, they just love it. They go crazy. A lot of them don't. A lot of them, if they fit in well, they don't really want to go back. But most of them have to go back for one reason or another, school and family. You know. Plus, they're not really used to some of the hardships, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the United States, you gotta figure out a way to make a living.
Yeah.
There, they don't really have to. You know what I mean? They have a good dole, I guess you could say.
Well, yeah, they have a good social
good-
services
right,
system.
so-
I mean, here
They're not used
you lose
to-
your job, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah, they're not really used to.
I've been there.
Yeah, they're not really used to kind of like the Wild West element of the United States. You know what I mean? Where if you fail, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You're fucked here.
You're sleeping in an alley.
Yeah,
pretty
you
much.
better learn you some street skills.
It's sad, but it's true.
Learn some street skills.
So, like I said, so it's these guys like doing this kind of shit. Now, it should be noted that Faust, the day after he stabbed this poor man, he goes to hang out with Euronymous and Varg and the other guys, and they go and burn one of them churches down, the Holmenkollen chapel, like I said before. So he was in on that too, allegedly. But then they caught him a little bit later. He got 14 years. He was let out in 2003. Like I said, he never showed any remorse. He never really had any reason. He's like, oh, I was just walking down the street and I felt like he was into serial killers and I just wanted to see what it was like to kill a person. Which, again, what the fuck. So, yeah. And again, like, I'm into serial killers too. I'm into horror movies. I'm into shit like that. But, like, I don't want to do it in real life.
You don't want to meet them motherfuckers.
No. It's like, why would you? It's escapism in a weird
Yeah.
way. It's like, I don't really want to do any of that shit. And most people that are into that shit don't want to do any of that kind of shit. That's why I try to, like, differentiate between, because I know how vilified, you know, people who like horror movies, how vilified people who liked goth, people like, you know, it's like, oh, you're Satanists and you're serial killers and all this other kind of shit, where most of the people that are into it are, like, the nicest people ever. It's just this little tiny percentage of weirdos that would be weirdos anyway, like whatever scene they were into, because they have other fucking problems. So,
Goths were catty though, most of them.
well, yeah.
Catty bitches.
Yeah. So, I mean, the media had been kind of jumping all over, you know, the suicides, the church burnings, all this other kind of stuff. But I think it was really 1993 before it kind of went nationwide and worldwide, because there was a bunch of articles about it, especially in one of it, like there's a big newspaper in Norway, Kerrang, you know, the very famous metal magazine out of the UK. They did like a huge thing about it, which was a little bit sensationalized. I actually, I read it. It's online. The whole thing is. But so a lot of it was sort of exaggerated. And I think that the guys in the bands, they kind of contributed to that a little bit too, because whenever they got interviewed, particularly in their early days, you know, they wanted to make it seem like they were as scary as possible. So they might have, you know, embellished some shit too. Even though I'm not saying that they didn't do like the shit that they were accused of doing, but they embellished other things. Now, Varg was actually interviewed for this one particular paper, and this was a really famous article, and like I said, that's kind of what got the genre nationwide attention. And he actually confessed in the article that he had burned all these churches, and he took credit for killing the guy in Lillehammer, even though Faust had done that. So he also said that they were Satanists and, all we want to do is just, spread evil and fear. And that's kind of our whole mission in life and all this other shit. Now, the people the journalists that wrote the article actually went to the cops and said, hey, this guy that I talked to for this article, like, he admitted to doing all of this crap.
They ratted him out.
Well, and the cops, the cops were already suspecting him anyway.
Yeah.
But they found out where he lived because Varg had printed these flyers for his band, and he had his home address on them. So they just found one of the flyers. They said, oh, he's in this band. And he's like, oh, this must be where he lives. They turn up, and they're like, hey, man.
Yeah. He's no Batman.
Not really. Now, that same year, Euronymous, he was the one that owned the store, Helvete, where all the people gathered and stuff. And at this point, like, they kind of had the media sniffing around. The cops were sniffing around because, a lot of these people that they were suspecting of doing all of this shit were hanging out in this one place. So they kind of had it under surveillance. So he decided that he was going to close the shop. It wasn't making any money anyway. And that was never really the intention, I guess, for the place. And this kind of pissed Varg off a little bit because he thought, and I think this may be why he had, like, embellished some of the shit in the articles, was that he wanted all of this shit to just go worldwide in the media because he's like, this will make people buy the records, right? Which I guess worked in a way because I don't think anybody'd be talking about any of these bands, maybe. Because, like I said, it was a tiny underground scene, but people know about these bands just because of all this horrible shit that happened and all the media surrounding it. So I think he wanted to use all of that to sell records. So he was pissed off that Euronymous said, there's too much heat on the shop, I'm going to close it. So then there was, like, even more little rivalry going on there. So Varg eventually goes to prison. And he said some shit like, he was trying to get, and I don't know if he really did this, but he was trying to get the police. He's like, oh, the prisons in Norway are too nice. It's like, we actually get a toilet and a bed. It's like, I told them to throw me in a dungeon and beat me up, and they wouldn't do it, and all this other kind of shit. So I don't know. Well, like I said, and he's, sitting around going, he's got guns and chainmail and swords and all this other kind of shit. So,
Send me to a Nicaraguan prison.
Which is funny because I suspect that if you really send him to, like, one of those shitty prisons, like, what's that fucking reality show that we see sometimes, like, Locked Up Abroad?
Yeah.
I suspect if you sent him to one of those prisons, he'd be the first one crying.
Yeah.
They do not
that main jail in Sao Paulo, man.
Woo! Didn't they have an episode about that?
Fuck, man. It's dudes hanging. It's just big cells made for maybe 4 people with 20, 30 people in there. They can have to stand up or lay down.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Got the toothbrush hanging from the ceiling on a fucking cord. They all use the same toothbrush. They've made hammocks so they could pack more people in there. It's fucking terrible. Terrible. Yeah. Damn. No lights. It's always dark in there. Mold growing.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh man.
So, like I said, I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
Like, if they actually had put this guy...
He would have cracked.
In a real prison, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Instead of one of those cushy Norwegian prisons.
Yeah. If you went to prison in Saddam's Iraq, all right, they did weird shit to you, okay? If you went to Abu Ghraib, they'd torture you. And then at the end of the day, they'd hand a noose. And the noose had a clip on it. And you could clip it onto the ceiling and hang yourself. They would give you a choice to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they would, overpack them in there and do weird shit like take a damn rubber hose and slip it up in your ass and pull it out so hard it prolapse your colon out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen photos of
that's
that.
how they fucking
Not by choice, I just accidentally.
Yeah, that's how they did that shit over there for Saddam.
Yeah. You know what happens when
Saddam's prisons were
safe
bad.
search is off.
Yeah. Some of those countries, if you go to jail, they mean to kill you. That they hope you're not coming out of there alive.
Well, yeah, they don't want to have to keep feeding you. You cost them too much money.
Yeah, it's like population control.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I could do that.
Yeah.
But, All right, so now in the early part of 1993, so as I said, Euronymous and Varg had been there had been all this kind of infighting for various reasons. So in August of that year, Varg and Blackthorn, who is this other guy, they drive to Euronymous' apartment. Now, what Varg had said that he was going to do was that he was mad about this contract, like a financial dispute over their records. And so he was going to give, this is what he claimed, that he was going to give Euronymous the contract back and tell him, fuck off, I don't want to do any like financial shit with you anymore, like with the record label. But what ended up happening, so he said, was that he gets to the apartment and he said that he had suspected that Euronymous had been plotting to kill him. Now, at his trial, he said he'd heard rumors that Euronymous was going to tase him, tie him up, and then kill him on camera and like sell it as a snuff film. He said that's what the rumor was.
Yeah,
so
good luck with that.
So he decides that he's going to go. So when they start getting into a fight at Euronymous' apartment, he decides, oh, well, I'm going to take the initiative and I'm just going to get him first because he's going to get me if I don't get him.
Tyranny.
So he's saying, oh, Euronymous like runs into the other room like he was going to go get the shotgun or go get a taser or whatever. So he decides so he tackles him and starts stabbing him. And he ends up stabbing him 23 times, I think it was, like once in the top of the head. He mostly stabbed him in the back, honestly, which I thought was a little bit, it's not like self-defense. He seemed like he was running away, but it looked like he stabbed him in the neck and stabbed him in the top of the head and shit like that. And later on, he didn't really show any remorse about it. He's like, oh, I stabbed him in the top of the head and his eyes went boo and like, he was dead and blah. So
the blood at the top of the head killed him?
I guess so, yeah. Like I said, it was 23 wounds. Now, he said that the wounds in the back were not stab wounds, but that there was broken glass on the floor because they'd been fighting and that they were from broken glass. But, I think forensics can tell the difference between a broken glass cut and a stab cut.
He didn't care. He's just
Maybe
talking.
not.
He's just
That's
talking.
what I mean.
He knows that the maximum they can give him is 20 years.
21 years.
There's no difference between 20 and 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, so that was that whole thing. So Euronymous, the guy that had started the shop where everybody gathered, one of the kind of innovators of the scene and stuff like that, got murdered. So this was, this was the subject of the movie Lords of Chaos, which actually I kind of want to see now, even though I read some reviews of it and they said it wasn't really that good, but that's mainly what what the movie is about. It's about the two of them. And as I said, Varga Kurtis has his own YouTube channel still. He's out of prison now. He was in there for 14 years, I think. He didn't serve the entire sentence. And he still posts on there from time to time, mostly talking about black metal, talking about various other things.
How old is he?
40s,
50s?
He's probably in his 40s, I imagine.
Okay.
It's like maybe Euronymous was planning to kill him. I don't know.
Right.
It wouldn't be the weirdest thing that fucking happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, so...
I'm drunk. I don't care who's killed. I really don't care. No.
I also wanted to go a little bit into... Now, I watched...
To me, it's all stories,
I watched a little bit of... Cause I found this one list that was like the top 10 like horrible things that have happened in black metal. I don't remember what site it was from. But they did a top 10 list of all the horrible shit. And it's like they had the church burnings on there. They had this guy named... Nicholas Kvarforth, I guess. He's from a band called Shining. And he actually faked his death. And then they told all their fans that he had died. And then he kind of went under another name. And then, like, he called himself Kool. But he was, like, in an outfit or whatever. And then, like, he's on the stage and he's like, it's me. I'm back from the dead or whatever.
Yeah. Did
they
boo?
I don't know.
I bet you this bitch went boo.
Now, after that happened,
Yeah.
like a whole, like it wasn't a riot exactly, but a bunch of violence like broke out at the concert. Like they handed out razors to like people in the audience, so they were like cutting each other up. They were like punching each other in the nuts and all this kind of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of awesome. There was also, and I said something about pigheads before. That's with that band. What's that band? Gorgoroth.
Gorgoroth.
Yeah. They had a thing in Poland. They did a show in Poland that they had like all these sheep heads. I saw like some footage of it.
I heard of it.
Yeah, they had all these sheep heads like on stakes in the front. They had like fucking liters and liters of blood everywhere, and they just like poured it everywhere and
trashed everything.
They had all these naked models like crucified and all this other kind of shit. Yeah, there was this other one too that was on the list because I already mentioned that one about the guy that sexually assaulted his girlfriend with the tattoo gun.
Yeah.
That was the guy. His name was Jeff Whitehead. He was in a band called Lurker of Chalice. Okay. And also one called Leviathan. Yeah.
I remember that band.
Yeah, so he did that. Also, there's this band called Stalag. And their whole thing is that they go to mental hospitals and they get the patients to like come with them to they record in like old cathedrals and stuff. Yeah. And they get the mental patients to like scream and like have freakouts like on their records because they want it to be like all authentic and stuff. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So and apparently
Stalag.
Apparently, yeah.
Like Stalag 13.
It is, but it's Stalag, but then it's GH, another GH at the end,
okay.
which supposedly stands for Global Holocaust.
Okay.
Now there's also another.
They're edging the fuck out of this lore.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So now there's another one, and this may not be true, but this is kind of like a black metal legend. There's this guy called, and I know I'm probably pronouncing all this really wrong, but what's his name? Natram, something like that. He's from a band called Silencer. This is a Swedish black metal band, actually. And the story goes, well, there's a bunch of stories about this guy. One of the stories is that he cut his own hands off and sewed pig hoofs on there instead. Okay. Which, you know,
sounds likely.
Like you do. Yeah. Because there apparently have been no pictures of him. He's one of those ones that like won't be photographed. Okay. Because he likes to like keep his mystique, I guess.
Because he's got hands.
So it's like that's why he's like I don't have pig hooves. Sorry, I hate to disappoint you. Now, also another story about him goes that in 2001, he took an axe and like axed a 5-year-old girl in the skull.
I don't believe.
Now, apparently he didn't kill her. Like, he could have killed her, but it kind of... Because I would have thought that getting hit in the head with an axe, that would kill you immediately. But when I researched the Axeman of New Orleans, that is not the case. Because a lot of those victims lived, and they got smashed in the head with an axe, and they lived. But they didn't remember anything afterward.
Girl
That's what I mean. So this is probably like an urban legend. Yeah, so the story goes that he did that, and then the cops came, and then he tried to get the cops to kill him, but... They didn't. Like, they got him. The dogs jumped on him, and then...
So they make up stories about themselves.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's hard
to compete with the guys that are in prison.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, I'm not saying... Because obviously, some of them burned those churches down, and they know for sure that 2 or 3 of those murders, that was them. So some of them do this shit. Yeah. But it's kind of a thing where... They're kind of gilding the lily, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, I murdered somebody, but then I also, like, you know, sewed him inside a pig carcass or something. You know what I mean? It's like they have to, like, add details on to make it sound scarier or more badass or whatever. They have to make it seem like, right? So, so this other guy, Gall, and he's also from, you said it, Gorgoroth.
All right.
Yeah. Now, I saw an interview with this guy, and he seemed like the nicest dude in the world. They were talking to him about, about various things, like about his new album and all this other stuff. Now, he was one of the ones that advocated the church burning, like when all the church... I don't think he burned any himself, but he was just like, yeah, seems like a good idea.
Burn a church.
Interestingly, he came out as gay, and so they were asking him about, you know, how... is that going? Because it seems like...
Yeah, how's that gay for you?
Well, no, because it seems like the scene is like not... Of course. Yeah, and especially after Faust, like, you know...
How's that gay for you in the
stabbing that gay guy to death. Yeah. But he said that...
Says they're all cool with it.
Well, he said that he had even gotten a letter of support from Faust, the guy that had stabbed that gay guy to death, like, when he came out. And
he says, you go.
I guess. And I'm like, that's really weird. This is very complicated.
I, Faust, have changed my ways.
I suppose.
You go, girl. That's
maybe. But I thought it was cool because he was saying, oh, you know, I get letters from, you know, other metal fans that are gay and they're scared to come out and stuff because, you know, because the scene's kind of a little some aspects of it are
The
sort
world
of
has
like that.
changed.
Yeah, so he's like, so I get letters all the time saying thank you for doing that. It made it easier for me to come out and all this other stuff. But then I read, like when I saw the interview, I'm like, oh, he seems like a nice man. And then I read this interview that he apparently was jailed a few times and fined a few times for assault, for taking a guy at a party, beating him up, tying him up, and then draining some of his blood into a cup. Okay. And then saying he was going to drink his blood or making the guy drink his own blood. So, just for some random reason or because he pissed him off. I don't know why.
Got some kink element in it.
I guess. So, there was that whole thing. So, I'm like, oh, maybe he's not as nice a guy as he seemed like. Because he seemed like a nice guy on the thing. So, yeah. All right. So, I think we've probably gone on long enough on this.
This show's probably long.
It's not that long. Okay. I think it was like an hour and 45 minutes, something like that. Yeah, so
show them all the videos you bought.
I put a picture of it on the Patreon page, but if you want me to, are they behind me?
Yeah.
Hand them to me. Are you sober enough?
No.
Are you sober enough to send them to me?
Some.
Yeah. Yeah, I put on the Patreon page. Well, when we're at the movies, like the AMC theaters across the street from the Altamont Mall. So we go over there and have food sometimes, like in between the movies. And there's an FYE over there. Yeah. And sometimes they have a really big sale in the front. They're like 4 for $10 or they're like $2 or whatever because they have a bunch of used DVDs in there. And it's like, I don't care if it's DVD or Blu-ray.
Show me what you got. Show me what you got.
Yeah, so I got, what I get
Sin
yesterday?
City.
Sin City.
Yeah.
Now, some of these we're going to do reviews on. I'm not telling you which ones.
Saw. I've never seen Saw, so she got that.
I know. I can't believe he's never seen it. I only like the first one, though. The other ones are kind of stupid. Cloverfield, also a good one. Stir of Echoes, you guys. I was so excited when I found this one. I love this fucking movie. You guys need to see this. It got fucked over because it came out the exact same week, maybe the exact same day as The Sixth Sense.
Oh, okay.
Which was like a huge juggernaut.
Yeah.
And people were like, I'm not seeing another ghost movie. Okay. And they didn't see this one.
Yeah.
But this one is way, way better. Based on a Richard Matheson novel. It's so good. Also, 28 Days Later.
Yep.
Which I love that cover, by the way.
We saw that one already, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Paranormal Activity, the first one. Also, look at this. Last House on the Left. I hate that cover, but that's the original.
We didn't
Wes
see
Craven
that one yet, did we?
Yes, we did.
We did? Okay.
Also, Black Swan, which was also an awesome movie. Woman in Black. I've seen the original, but I have not seen this. This is the remake, so I'm looking forward to that one because I love fucking old school ghost movies. And The Ring, motherfuckers.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's good. All right, so I actually like this one better than the Japanese one I say that. I don't say that lightly because usually the original Japanese ones are usually better than the American remakes, but in that case, that one was way better.
All right, shut it down.
All right, so I probably forgot to mention a bunch of shit. And again, if you're into black metal, no offense intended because I like some of that shit too. It's like, and some of these dudes are douches, but most of the dudes are fine. It's like shit. Some goth musicians are douches too.
No, actually, a lot of the goth musicians are douches.
A lot of musicians in general are douches. It just kind of comes with the territory. So it's like I said, I don't want to shit on any musical genres because there's douches in every fucking genre.
I can vouch for A Starry Night.
Those are super nice guys. I mean, we bring them up a lot. But we know them and they're super nice. We love them.
I even got them wear their shit. So.
Yeah, he wears
their shit. They gave me that shit. So
they gave us
that's that free shit.
We got all kind of free shit from them. Well, hey, I do a lot of their stuff. I do their album covers and all that other kind of stuff. All right, so we are wrapping up episode 146. Hope you guys enjoyed this meandering musical discussion. And remember, if you like the show, like, share, subscribe on all your social media. If you'd like to financially support the show, go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/13o'clockpodcast. Or you can go to our blog, 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and there's a button in the sidebar that goes to a PayPal account if you'd like to give a one-time donation. Remember, our regular episodes come out every Tuesday. We also have Movie Retrospective, comes out every Friday, and I'll probably be doing one or more of those movies over there that I just showed you guys, so hopefully you'll be excited about that. Also, we do 13 o'clock matinee, which is 3 new movies in the theater. That comes out every Sunday, so check them out if you haven't already. And also, subscribe if you haven't already, because we need more subscribers, you guys, more subscribers. And that will do it for episode 146. We will see you next time. Bye. Kitty!
He's trying to dig underneath the box. Don't dig underneath there.